Next, I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce our next guest speaker, Marsha Banks. Marsha is an incredible woman, and she has a story that can inspire all of us. She has been working in the field for over 13 years and has experience working with children of incarcerated parents and working to educate individuals and communities on how to better serve those in need. She is also a mother of 8 children. Yes, we all know how much work that is. She has also founded her own agency called A Miracle for Sure that works to improve the quality of life for individuals and their families whose lives have been impacted by life experiences, and to provide education, mentoring, and advocacy to individuals and their children as they are successfully making the transformation after they have been incarcerated. Marsha is a graduate of the BHA program, and she also attends the Harrisburg Brethren in Christ Church. So please join me in welcoming Marsha Banks.
It's an honor and a privilege to be standing before you this evening. I am truly, truly grateful for the life and the journey that God has prepared for me, the introduction to Brethren communities, to Harrisburg City itself. I will tell you though, I came kicking and screaming. See, I was a Philadelphia girl, abandoned at birth, mother and father drug addicts, raised up in a home with my grandmother, who had no clue what she was supposed to do with little old me. In the midst of all of that, I experienced some trials and tribulations, abuse, neglect, abandonment, rape, incest, molestation, just to name a few. Psychologically, I was a mess by the age of 18, at which time I bore my first child, right after graduation. 365 days later, my life took a turn that I was not prepared for. An addiction, an abusive marriage, prostitution, incarceration. Upon the release of my incarceration, my feet were planted down on Market Street at the Greyhound bus station, headed for, I think at the time, it was Delta housing. And at that time, there was this partnership with Delta Housing and Brethren Housing. I lived in the apartment just across the street from the now Harrisburg First Brethren Church and Brethren Housing. I actually became one of the first graduates of this partnership. Let me tell you a little bit about that challenge. You heard that I had 8 children. Well, during the time that I was serving time in prison, those children, all but one, was in foster care. When I tell you that my case manager at Brethren Housing had her hands full, because see, I came home with a vision that regardless of what charges I had went to prison for, I was to bear children and raise them. But the problem was I didn't know how, which is where Brethren Housing came in into my life. I can't begin to tell you. I mean, we could be here forever. We are as strong as the foundation that brings us through. These folks that did not know anything, I was an outsider. I came here and I said, look, I got 7 kids back in Montgomery County that needs their mom to get her life right and bring them home. Miss Julie Williams was my case manager at the time. Her side and confidant was Miss Chris. The two of them together worked on a plan on how do we get Marsha ready for bringing home 7 kids. And did they ever? Programs and services, caring people, loving, unconditionally, didn't judge me, didn't say anything about these kids that were running around with no structure whatsoever. But they showed me through the classes that I took, through the fellowship that we shared together, through the conversations that we had with one another, and a little bit extra. They taught me how to love. They taught me the patience I needed to take care of my children. They placed that foundation in me, that hope and that belief in me that I could become a good mom. And in that, we brought up these children. Together, we brought up these children. Because some days, I walked out of the living room and didn't know what to do. But they never gave up on me in that process. It is programs like this that I believe that we are called to support and to be a part of. Every volunteer that came in at every graduation we had was amazing. The room filled like this every time. And I'm like, who are these strange people? My kids would run around and jump up in the arms of the volunteers, of the board members, of the individuals that cared enough about us to spend that time. See, yeah, I went to school. I obtained a few degrees. But none of that had anything to do with what the development that I came through the love and the commitment of individuals that volunteered their time to serve me. And as a result of that, I have 8 beautiful children, 7 high school graduates. I'm gonna brag a little bit. 3 college graduates. And some of you might get a little uncomfortable, but I have 7 of the most amazing grandchildren you ever saw. I believe that I have been able to be that vision for others, to show other women that you heard my journey, that they can too do well with whatever goal. And I gave them the most challenging goal that they probably encountered thus far. But it only means that if we put our minds to it, that we can accomplish it. But we need to have the supportive services. Hummel Street has never looked better. It has never looked better. We thank them for coming into our communities. I will never forget the Christmas parties with the, I don't know, at the last minute Santa Clauses that they found. But my children loved it. The big school bus that comes on Hummel Street that brings the food, the opportunity that I got, not knowing what it meant to serve, not knowing what it meant to give back, but that was my first volunteering experience. They set that in me. As I start to go off and explore of creating my own organization, like Brethren Housing, providing housing and supportive services to women like me, we have a mission. They have the vision. Together we fulfill it, and we make our communities a better place. I stand proud to be a graduate of Brethren Housing and all the services and supports that they have. For all your hard-earned money that you've committed and donated into this organization, it has profited me greatly. I mean greatly. My children are amazing. They are all doing very well today. And it's all because we had a good start and a place to call home when we came here to this strange place. I thank you. I thank you for your commitment to serving, your commitment to helping individuals like myself and the ladies that sit here. We're changing lives, folks, one at a time, one day at a time, one family at a time, and we are changing communities. But they can't do that alone. They need you, and that's why you're sitting here. I thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Marsha, so much for sharing your words and the inspiration that you are to all of us.